Good morning, aspirants. Today is 8th of September, and I welcome you all on today's series of What to Read in the Hindu newspaper. I am 𝗵𝗻𝗀 𝗏𝗏, Senior Mentor at Prepp IAS. While going through the articles, we will not only see its relevance from the lens of prelims and mains, but we'll also try interlinking it with other GS papers. So let's get started. The very first article that worth our attention in today's Hindu newspaper talks about blood moon. Now, this is very much relevant for our GS paper 1 geography, wherein celestial phenomena like lunar eclipse, solar eclipse has been discussed. The key theme that can be linked while reading about it is knowing lunar eclipse, its types. For example, here this has been mentioned as blood moon, but there is also other phenomena such as blue moon, full moon. So all these conceptual clarity that we need, the differences that they have with regard to it, and also the significance of observation with regard to this particular phenomena. From prelims perspective, the same article is to be seen through the lens of conditions for total solar eclipse and lunar eclipse, the differences between the two. Then astronomy basics with regard to umbra, penumbra, supermoon versus blood moon. From mains perspective, the same article is to be seen through the lens of are there any direct or indirect influence with regard to waves and tides or not? For example, this can even be linked with science and tech as also. And even with regard to the calendars that we say, because some of the calendars are based on solar and some of the calendars are based on lunar as well. So with taking this particular reference, we can even link this phenomena with regard to culture as well. So in this manner, the areas surrounding it, peripheral areas, and the main area can be linked while going through this particular article. Moving on, the next important article that catches our attention in today's Hindu newspaper is on editorials page, and that talks about the making of an ecological disaster in the Andaman and Nicobar. Now, the key theme that has been discussed in this article by Mrs. Gandhi is about the environmental, ecological, and tribal justice concerns around Great Nicobar project, relevant for several papers when we map this particular article. For instance, the very first one under GS paper 1 that talks about Indian society, wherein tribal communities can be linked while going through this particular article, such as TVTG, then displacement issues. And at the same time, this can even be linked with GS paper 2, wherein governance can be linked. While going through this particular article, we can revise tribal rights, about Article 338A, about role of NCST, Forest Recognition Act, then PESA Act, how the scheduled areas are being governed. What is the role of community governance or gram panchayats over there? But here, that's a holistic issue. This particular article majorly talks about Andaman and Nicobar. Then the different kind of tribes that exist there, the population that they have, the language that they have. So all these can be brushed up while going through this particular article. This can even be linked with GS paper 3 as well, wherein environment under the theme deforestation, biodiversity loss, coastal regulation zones and infrastructure associated with regard to it, compensatory afforestation drive that has been said when they will cut the forest there and how they are going to compensate that. This can even be interlinked with disaster management as well. And in this particular article, a reference of 2004 tsunami has been mentioned, that how they could cope up with it. So from prelims perspective, other areas that we can see while going through this particular article, the exact location. So the latitude that separates Andaman and Nicobar from main territorial India. Then a Forest Rights Act and the recent changes that has happened with regard to coastal regulation zone. Then from mains perspective, constitutional safeguards that has been provided to the very PVTG communities that can be said. Before beginning of any infrastructure project, what sort of structural mechanism in the form of EIA, Environmental Impact Assessment, and SIA, how they are being made, then this can even be interlinked with GS paper 4 as well, wherein justice for vulnerable groups can be quoted. So in this manner, this particular article is to be seen holistically. I have marked several important pointers and also mentioned like the relevance of which particular theme would be linked while going through this particular article. So moving on, the next important article that is very much relevant to go through while going through today's paper is about graying with grace. Now, we almost talk about a lot of articles that talks about demographic dividend, but graying population, increasing older population is also the reality that we have to face in the coming time. So this can be an important article with regard to GS paper 1 Indian society, wherein demographic trends, population dynamics, even within India, south versus north, can be linked. This can even be linked with GS paper 2, wherein welfare schemes with regard to older population. Has there been any change with regard to healthcare system? Afterwards, population policy challenges that we are facing, human and economic implication of demographic dividend, that would be the time of ours. So this can even be interlinked with the declining fertility rate that we are facing, which leads to demographic transition, and eventually in the aging society, how we have planned the dignity with aging when it comes to in the near coming time. For mains perspective, the same article is to be seen through the lens of population studies when it comes to aging and regional disparities that even within state also that we have. Is there any need of policy reorientation? And if yes, what are the policy reorientation initiatives that has been taken by even the central government and the state government as well for elderly care, geriatric care, health care, social security measures that we have to plan right now? With regard to GS3, also the impact on workforce growth, demographic dividend utilization that should be done, else the situation will turn out to be a demographic disaster in the long run. So in this manner, this particular article is to be done. I have marked several important pointers, highlighted them, and at the same time, what sort of data that can be quoted while going through this particular article in the form of, for instance, sample registration system that we have developed, CBR, TFR, what all these concepts are there. So this can be brushed up in this particular manner. Moving on, the next important article that is worth our attention talks about India-China, the inability to define border. Now, this is relevant for GS paper 1 geography, wherein geographical conflict that we have with China in western and eastern front altogether can be studied through mapping series, and in the same time, this is relevant for GS paper 2, where in international relation, neighborhood first policy is to be seen. Panchsheel Accord that we have signed with them can be brushed up. Relevant also for GS paper 3 under the theme internal security as well. The key theme that has been discussed in this particular article talks about the evolution of India-China border management framework since 1988 Rajiv Gandhi visit to 1993 BPTA Accord, then in 1996 confidence building measures that has been taken in the past few years, Galwan issues, and the kind of talks we are having even till date. So border issues has yet not been resolved with them, and it is one of the major pinpoints that we have with India-China relationship. So for prelims perspective, the areas that we need to brush up our knowledge is on BPTA Act 1993, the key features and provisions with regard to 1996 Act. Afterwards, LAC, a line of actual control. What is the concept all about? Trade data that we have with China. So these all aspects can be read while going through prelims perspective. From mains perspective, this particular article is to be seen through the lens of border dispute management, how we have done so far and what all initiatives we have taken so nowwards to diffuse the situation that is there in line of actual control. For security implication as well, LAC ambiguities that is there. Every time we got to know the Arunachal several districts has been renamed by China altogether. So these are the things that we have to discuss. Then this is also relevant for essay as well, wherein we can talk about India, China as an evolution part. Why we have yet not been able to manage the dispute resolution with China, and at the same time the trade data that we share with them, how we are at times confrontation with them, and at the same time we cooperate with China on several issues. So this dynamic concept, this particular article can be understood. Moving on, the last important article for the day is on Science and Tech page, wherein space tech has been discussed. So I have underlined several important pointers that we have to know about while going through this particular article. And this is relevant for GS paper 3 under the theme Science and Tech, wherein space tech can be elaborated while going through this particular article. The theme that has been discussed in this is about stellar paradox navigation, wherein alternative to GPS in deep space missions can be quoted. For prelims perspective, what we need to know about is stellar parallax, what it is, then knowing the nearest star, pole star, galaxies such as Proxima Centauri, Wolf 359, the new planets that we in the other constellation or other solar system that we find. So we need to know about them. Then what are the basics of spacecraft navigation, the orbits that we have, these can be revised. Several initiatives with regard to the launches that we have made, this can be revised. Then India's aspirations in space sector can be revised while going through this. The different observational telescope mission that we have launched for studying space, this can be revised. Initiatives primarily by India in the form of Gaganyaan, Chandrayaan, Aditya L1, that can be revised thoroughly while going through this particular article. So in this manner, this particular article is to be holistically seen, highly inclined towards science and topic altogether. So this is all from my end from today's Hindu newspaper. Till we meet for the next time, take care, goodbye, and keep learning.